They told us we were advancing, they said the world was evolving, that technology would solve everything, that governments would protect us, that science would save us. But now the veil is tearing, and what we see behind it is not salvation, but collapse. Systems are crumbling, financial systems, political structures, social orders, even spiritual institutions. What was once called solid is now shaking. What we once leaned on, trusted in, pledged loyalty to, is being exposed for what it truly is: fragile, temporary, and flawed. You feel it in your gut, in your chest, in your mind, that unease, that whisper that something isn't right. And you're not imagining it, you're discerning it. The foundations of the world are cracked, the scaffolding is rotting. The machinery we thought would sustain us is failing. And that failure is not an accident, it is ordained. Because what happens when we build on sand? What happens when we remove God from the center and replace him with self, with profit, with progress, with pride? What happens when we exchange eternal truth for cultural convenience? We build towers to the sky, thinking we're untouchable. And then we fall, the system fails, but before it fails in the world, it fails in the heart. Look back. The roots of our institutions were once nourished by reverence, by humility, by dependence on something greater than man. But over time, that reverence became ritual, then ritual became tradition, and tradition became hollow. The soul was lost, and in its place came performance. We didn't lose our systems overnight. We corrupted them little by little, decision by decision, compromise by compromise, until what stood was no longer a reflection of heaven, but a monument to man. And yet we're surprised when it doesn't hold. We're shocked when the banks tremble, when leaders lie, when wars ignite, when morality disappears. But how can a house stand if its foundation is eroded? How can a nation endure if its soul is sick? The truth is, many feel overwhelmed not just because the world is shaking, but because the very things they depended on have turned against them. The system that once provided now demands. The culture that once celebrated truth now punishes it. And the voices that once inspired now manipulate. People are carrying the weight of broken promises, of empty words, of shattered dreams, and they wonder, what's left? What can I trust? Who can I follow? That feeling, that deep, aching negativity, that hopelessness creeping into your soul, it doesn't come from weakness. It comes from the betrayal of false foundations, from the realization that what you thought was a rock was only dust. And that can leave you paralyzed, angry, bitter, disoriented. But hear this, it's not the end, it's the beginning. Because when God allows systems to fail, it's not to destroy his people, it's to deliver them. When idols fall, altars are rebuilt. When towers collapse, temples are restored. When man's illusions are shattered, God's truth can finally shine through. You see, we've been too comfortable with scaffolds instead of stone, too content with shadows instead of substance. We've walked through life leaning on things that were never meant to hold us. And now those things are being taken away. Not to harm us, but to heal us, not to cast us down, but to call us up. So when you feel that pit in your stomach, that wave of emotion rising, don't fight it. Don't drown in it. Discern it. That unease is not your enemy. It's a sign. A divine warning that what you built your life on may not be enough to carry you into what's coming. The end of June 2025 is not just a date. It's a turning point, a line drawn in the sand, and everything unstable will be tested. But you are not a prisoner of the system. You are not called to blend in with a crumbling order. You are called to stand on a rock that does not move. You are not here to sink with the ship, you are here to walk on the waves. Yes, the systems of man are failing. But the word of God stands, and what you choose now, what you build your life on from this moment forward, will determine whether you fall with the world or rise with the remnant. The cracked foundations are only the beginning, you've felt it, the tremors, the shaking beneath your feet, not physical, but spiritual. Emotional, mental, you wake up and the world doesn't feel stable anymore. The rules have changed. What used to make sense no longer does. People are turning on each other. Institutions are losing their credibility. There's a heaviness in the atmosphere. A storm not just outside but inside, and you wonder why. Why now? Why this shaking? But the shaking didn't come to break you. It came to awaken you. Everything that can be shaken must be shaken. That's not just a poetic idea. That's a divine principle. The things we've clung to, the things we thought would hold God, is allowing them to be tested. Because what is real will remain. What is false will fall. And that includes everything in your life. Your emotions, your values, your faith, your fears. This isn't just the world shifting randomly. It's not coincidence. It's not chaos. It's calibration. You're being aligned with what truly matters. The world is not spinning out of control. It's being brought under divine scrutiny. And yes, that process is uncomfortable. It stirs things up. It brings buried pain to the surface. It exposes cracks in your soul you didn't know were there. You feel negative emotions. You feel fear, anxiety, despair. That's not weakness. That's a signal, a sign that something is being stirred inside of you that doesn't belong in your future. It's the clutter being cleared out. The shaking reveals what's been hiding, what we've ignored, tolerated, or justified. The world says suppress it, numb it, escape it, but God says feel it, face it, and be free of it. Because you can't walk into the next season carrying what was never meant to be part of your calling. We've been living in comfort zones disguised as callings, surviving in systems that don't serve heaven. But the shaking comes to break the illusion. The shaking is the mercy of God tearing down the scaffolding before it collapses on you. It's not punishment, it's protection. It's not the wrath of abandonment, it's the grace of refinement. God is not trying to scare you. He's trying to separate you from the lies, from the idols, from the clutter, from the noise. He's not letting everything shake because he's lost control. He's letting it shake because he's taking control. And you, child of God, are in the middle of that holy process. That's why you feel the pressure, because something inside you is being squeezed. Pressed, shaken, not to crush you, but to release what's pure. The oil doesn't flow until the olive is crushed. The wine doesn't pour until the grape is pressed. And your destiny will not come forth until the shaking brings it out of you. It's not the enemy pulling you apart. It's the Lord calling you deeper. He's saying, what are you really standing on? Where is your trust? Is it in the paycheck, the platform, the praise of others, the government, the comfort of the routine? Because if your foundation is anything less than unshakable truth, it will be tested, and not in some distant future. It's happening now. The countdown has begun. The world is shifting toward a divine collision with truth. And the end of June 2025 isn't just a marker on the calendar. It's a moment in the heavens, an appointed time, that shaking you feel. It's not random. It's a signal that the time is near, that what's not of God must fall, and what is of God must rise. And yes, the enemy will use the shaking to try to stir fear in you. He'll try to convince you that it's all falling apart, but heaven is saying it's all coming together. Don't confuse shaking with destruction. Shaking is preparation. Shaking is alignment. Shaking is purification. It's what happens before revival, before breakthrough, before destiny. And if you're feeling like you're losing your grip, good. Because the shaking will take away everything that was never meant to hold you. The system will fail, but the kingdom will not. And you are part of a kingdom that cannot be shaken. Let the storm come. Let the winds blow. Let the ground tremble. Because what God is building in you will stand when everything else falls. The shaking has a purpose, and you were made to endure it. We live in a world that moves by headlines and breaking news, where plans are changed, meetings rescheduled, and promises often forgotten. But heaven doesn't work like that. Heaven doesn't react. It appoints. Heaven doesn't panic. It prepares. There are no accidents in the courts of the Most High, no surprises, no detours, only divine timing. And that's what you need to understand right now, the moment we're heading toward the end of June 2025. It's not just a date on the calendar. It's a divine appointment. It's not the result of random chaos. It's the fulfillment of a heavenly schedule that's been in place long before any of us were born. God doesn't just know the future, He declares it. He sets the time, He ordains the seasons, He opens the seals. And when He says now, no power in hell or on earth can delay it. You may not see the full picture, you may feel disoriented in the present, but your confusion doesn't cancel His order. His plan is unfolding exactly as He intended. We look at the world right now, wars, division, rebellion, deception, and we wonder, is this all just unraveling? But it's not unraveling. It's revealing. God is not watching history like a spectator. He's not adjusting the plan on the fly. He's not pacing the floor of heaven saying, "What do I do next?" No, He's sitting on the throne, still. Sovereign, silent in the way only a God who has already spoken needs to be, and when He says, "It's time," then it is time. This is the season where the appointed hour draws near. The alarm in your spirit isn't paranoia, it's prophecy. That urgency you feel, that sense that something massive is about to shift, it's not fear, it's foresight. It's God preparing your heart for what is already on His calendar. The plans of man will fall, the projections of this world will fail. But what God has spoken will come to pass, and He hasn't left you clueless. He hasn't left you without warning. He has been speaking in signs, in stirrings, in scripture, in whispers, in dreams. If your ears have been tuned to heaven, then your heart already knows. We're not heading into a new season of comfort. We're approaching a crossing point, a reckoning, a divine convergence. The appointed time is not just about what will happen in the world. It's about what must happen in you. You can't live like yesterday and expect to stand in tomorrow. You can't walk in delay when heaven is moving in acceleration. And right now, heaven is not hesitating. It's moving, it's calling. It's marking those who are willing to let go of the old wineskin, the old mindset, the old cycles, because the clock is not waiting for your permission. The countdown isn't pausing until you're ready. The hour is coming whether you respond or not. The only question is, will you be aligned with it? God doesn't operate by man's timeline. He doesn't bow to governments. He doesn't check the economy before He moves. When He declares a time, the only wise thing to do is to prepare. The wise see what's coming and make ready. The foolish ignore the signs and are overtaken, and make no mistake. This appointed time is not a deadline for despair, but an hour of divine decision. Things will shift. Systems will crack. But those who are rooted in Him will not be shaken. You see, the shaking isn't the end, the shaking is the signal that the end of one age is giving birth to another. There are moments in history where everything changes, where the old order collapses and the new begins. We are standing on the edge of such a moment, not because man decided it, but because heaven appointed it. What you feel stirring in your soul isn't random. It's your spirit responding to a date that's already circled in eternity, a moment that's already been announced in the heavens. And while the world sleeps and scoffs and scrolls, the Spirit of God is saying, prepare. You may not know every detail of what will unfold, but you don't need to. You just need to be aligned with the one who does. The winds are picking up, the pressure is rising, the shift is near, and those who walk with Him will not be caught unaware. The children of darkness may stumble in the chaos, but the children of light will walk in clarity, because heaven is not improvising. Heaven is not guessing. Heaven has already spoken. The appointed time is set, and it is coming. There comes a moment when everything around you demands your silence. When the chaos grows so loud that you're tempted to disappear into it. When fear becomes the easier choice. When the enemy whispers, stay down, blend in, keep quiet. But if you are called for this hour, and you are, then silence is not your portion. Retreat is not your destiny. This is not the moment to shrink. This is the moment to rise. The enemy doesn't fight the weak. He fights the chosen. He attacks what threatens him. And if you're feeling the pressure, the confusion, the darkness trying to close in around you, it's because there's something inside you that hell is terrified of. The adversary isn't after your comfort, he's after your calling. And he's using discouragement like a weapon. He's hoping the weight of emotion will break you before your breakthrough comes, but listen carefully, what you're feeling isn't the end. It's the tension before transformation. You're not falling apart, you're being reshaped, you're not buried. You're planted. And when the system fails, when the lights go out, when the noise collapses into silence, those who know who they are in God will rise not because they feel strong, but because they were appointed for the storm. This isn't the time to look around and wait for someone else to step up. This isn't the hour to scroll past your assignment. You were not saved to survive. You were saved to stand. You were chosen to shine in the darkness that's coming upon the earth. And I know everything in you may be screaming, I'm not ready, I'm still broken, I'm still figuring things out. But God doesn't call the perfected. He calls the willing. He takes fishermen and makes them preachers. He takes outcasts and makes them prophets. He takes the least qualified and fills them with fire, because it's not about your resume, it's about your response. When heaven says go, do you say yes? When God says stand, will you get up even if your knees are trembling? We are approaching a time when systems, governmental, social, even spiritual, will collapse under the weight of their own corruption. And the people who look to them for strength will be left searching. Who will they look to? Who will they turn to? That's where you come in, not as a spectator, not as a victim, but as a voice crying out in a wilderness of confusion. A light shining in the valley of shadows, a presence that doesn't panic because it knows the presence of God. You were not born in this generation by accident. You didn't survive everything you've walked through just to fade into the background now. If you're still breathing, it's because heaven still has use for your voice, your gifts, your fire. You were made for the shaking. You were formed in the fire so you could carry the flame. And yes, it's heavy. Yes, it's hard. But destiny always costs something. Glory always presses you. Purpose always provokes resistance. You can't rise without the weight. You can't shine without the dark. And you will never walk in authority until you've walked through adversity. But now the hour is late. The calendar is ticking. The appointed moment is approaching. The end of June 2025 is not just a page turning. It's a prophetic threshold. And the ones who were asleep will miss it, but the ones who rise, the ones who respond, will be part of a remnant that reshapes history. You don't need to know every step. You just need to take the next one. You don't need to have it all together. You just need to offer your yes. God is not looking for the impressive. He's looking for the obedient. And that obedience starts now. Let the system fall. Let the idols crack. Let the world scoff. But as for you, take your place. Lift your voice. Shake off the fear. Step out of the shadows, because the moment is coming. And the question is not whether the world will fall, but whether the chosen will rise. This is not the time to retreat. This is the time to rise.